Roxo Media House.
From the Flying T Studios at Roxo Media House, this is Frogs Today. With special guests, former captain of the Sun Bowl team, Landry Burdine. The voice of the Tarleton Texans, Byron Anderson. And we'll hear from our roundtable of experts. And now, here's your host, the voice of the TCU Horned Frogs, Brian Estridge.
Welcome in. It's a Thursday edition of Frogs Today. We got a great show lined up for you. We're going to check in on the Tarleton Texans a little bit later on. Byron Anderson is their longtime play-by-play voice. He'll be alongside. We got our round table of experts that's going to come by as well. And we're going to head out to Amon Carter Stadium. They're working on Moncrief Field today. We'll get a look at that and see how things are progressing with one of the better field crews in the country. Right now, though, we bring in our good friend Landry Burdine, part of the Horned Frog Sports Network, one of the analysts. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Hey, we wanted to dive into a couple of different things. One is I'm kind of getting everybody's perspective on what they saw last Friday night against Colorado. Team that kind of started slow, poured it on in the second half. You know, they talk about details and discipline. Did you see that out of this group?
I did. I was really encouraged by a lot of things. You never know coming out of fall camp what you're going to have. And what I was looking for, and we talked about it in the pregame show, was how's the communication going to be, right? Thinking about Joe Gillespie installing a new defense, and I was blown away with how well they communicated in the back seven mainly. But also there's no panic with the play call coming in. There was a lot. They had the call. They knew what they were doing. It was in plenty of time. And what you saw was really less blown coverages than I think we've seen in a long time. So I was really pleased with that. I was pleased with the effort. And I just thought the overall enthusiasm on the defensive side of the ball was good. And there were some things to work on. I think tackling was a little subpar, but that's always going to happen in a first game. But overall, I felt like they dealt with a lot of adversity on both sides of the ball and handled it without panicking. And I really thought they did a good job of it.
You told us during the game, as you do your live locker room report at halftime, about the adjustments A.J. Ricker, the offensive line coach, Garrett Riley, made. You saw it in the second half running the football. I think maybe we aren't making as big a deal out of that as we should, because not only is this a new team, but it's a new coaching staff as well, and they were all in sync at halftime, weren't they?
Yeah, and it was kind of a new. I've been in that locker room now for over 10 years, and that doesn't include when I was in it as a player. And so it was unique to see a completely different perspective in the locker room. And what immediately happened was both sets of staffs went into their respective places and just very calmly talked through, okay, what are we seeing? So you had the guys that are in the booth. They talked through it, and they're like, okay, here's what we're going to try.
Yeah.
And you could tell that the emphasis was going to be on running the football, and it was going to be on running it up the middle. They tried to go side to side a little bit. They tried to trick them a little bit, and they said, you know what, let's go right at them, see what happens. And, the proof's in the pudding. Both, Kendre Miller right at the beginning of that second half with a nice long run to start it, and then DeMercado up the gut for a touchdown. So the adjustments were great, and I just what I came away from halftime really impressed with was the coordinators allowed their guys to contribute in those conversations, listened, applied, and so let's go. That's why you guys are here, and those are the adjustments we need to make.
And then the head coach spends his time with the officials, which I thought was very interesting in that, and he talked about that, an ongoing conversation, because he just wanted some clarification on some things, but that's his role.
And he's relentless.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've just never really paid attention to Sonny Dykes on the other sideline, if he's always been that way, but it was the entire game.
Yes.
Ongoing conversation is a nice way to put it.
Right.
It got a little heated at times, but I think the deal with Coach Dykes is he's got a rapport with these guys, and so he's got the respect, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to try to do whatever he can to tilt that pendulum in favor of his guys, and his manner of or his approach, if you will, I think is effective. He's that may get a call or two back their direction, and that could win them a game that ultimately gets them into a better bowl, or who knows.
It's kind of like how they play the analytics game, which we'll talk about a little bit later on with the roundtable of experts. I mean, they play the numbers, and this is kind of, hey, let's see if we can get the numbers in our favor,
Yeah, I was impressed with that. The whole day as I watched the staff communicate and as I watched them teach, there was no panic at all. And there were times in that game where, you were kind of like, I don't know, man, This is not looking too good. We're on the road. It's a hostile environment. It was really loud, by the way.
Yeah, it was.
But I was really blown away for a first game to go, in my opinion, that smoothly. says a lot about their preparation and their ability to teach the concepts that they're trying to get across to these guys.
All right, Tarleton in town this weekend. Todd Whitten's team obviously had a ton of success when they were in the Lone Star Conference. They continue to move their way up. Joe Gillespie said earlier in the week that they will look the part. That they will look, especially on the front line.
Yeah.
You know, meaning the first teamers will look like they're supposed to look. Listen, this is a roster made up of Texans. They're going to play their tails off.
Yeah, these are guys that played Texas high school football.
Yeah.
They're now playing Division I football, and they've got some key transfers that have come
Yeah.
in. You know, quarterback Bo Allen,
Yep.
SEC, came in from Kentucky. He actually got some playing time
Yep.
there, so it's not like he was real deep on the depth chart. And he's throwing to Jaden Smith, 6'6", 210.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, Coach Gillespie talked about it yesterday in his press conference. He's like, look, if they don't have an answer, they're just going to throw it up to him, and that's a size mismatch. And,
Yeah.
you know, he had 3 touchdowns last week in their win, and Gabe Douglas was another guy that had 130 yards receiving. So I think Jaden Smith had 11 catches.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, there's a lesson in there for, I think, TCU offensive coordinators trying to get the ball to Quentin Johnston and the impact that can happen. So on the offensive side of the ball, they're going to be really good.
And then real quickly, we know Tyrone Nix
Yeah.
from his days at Southern Miss as a player first, and then as a D coordinator. We saw him around the country as well. I mean, it is not conventional. Let's just put it that way, but it is aggressive.
Very aggressive, and it's a lot like Joe Gillespie's defense. They're going to attack. They want to dictate. You know, Tyrone Nix brings, I think 17 years of Division I defensive coordinator experience. Frog fans will remember him from those early 2000s Southern Miss teams that TCU fans used to, or TCU teams used to battle with year in and year out when they were in Conference USA. But, you know, Tyrone Nix is a great teacher, too. And I really thought it was a coup for them to get him in there. I mean, he was recently at South Carolina and, you know, coaching with Will Muschamp, and I mean, he's been around some really good defensive guys. So, you know, I think a lot of Frog fans are looking at this matchup thinking, it's Tarleton State, but you know, they're going to bring a little something. So the Frogs are going to have to be ready, and it's opening night at the Carter. It's going to be a really good atmosphere, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get going.
Yeah, a couple of thousand Texan fans will be there too.
Yeah.
They'll be bringing some folks. They got a lot of pride down there, and they should.
Yeah.
It's a great school. You've been on the campus. I've been on this campus. They got a lot going on.
Yeah, they do.
I'm happy and proud for what they're doing. I'm glad we're playing this game.
Yeah.
I think it's important to play this. Landry, thank you, man.
You got it, buddy.
Always appreciate that. Coming up, Byron Anderson is the play-by-play voice of the Tarleton Texans. He'll give us some insight into what Todd Whitten is thinking about this ball game. Plus, a little bit later on, our roundtable of experts will give you some predictions on this matchup. Our focus today on Tarleton, coming up Saturday at 7 as Frogs Today continues in a moment.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU, both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Mention the Frogs Today show and get 10% off anytime, and order online at daveshotchicken.com.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Welcome back into Frogs Today as we continue to focus in on the Tarleton Texans on Saturday night here at Amon G. Carter Stadium. And on this Thursday edition, we are zoning in on them a little closer. And we thought we'd bring in the terrific play-by-play voice of Tarleton. Byron Anderson joins us right now. He's been doing it for 7 years. Good to see your face, my man.
Hey, good to see you too, Brian. Pleasure to be on with you. And we're looking forward to some football this weekend out in Amon Carter.
I think a lot of folks are, and I want to get into that matchup in just a little bit. But just so folks know, Byron, you're a diehard Texan. We can say that, man. You're a diehard Tarleton Texan, but you grew up with the other purple in your house, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. My mom and both of her sisters, 3 of them, from Kansas, where they grew up. They grew up in a little town called Hiawatha, and I was trying to find out how she got down to TCU, but all 3 of them got down there. My mom in 1974 and then 1975 was Addie the Frog. She was the mascot at TCU. And so, it was and then my other aunt, my Aunt Caroline, was about 10 years younger than my mom. And so when my mom got married and had me, I used to actually go to the dorms to be babysitted by my Aunt Caroline. So I spent a lot of time there. We'd come back to games. I can remember the old Southwestern Conference, getting to go to games there. And, just a lot of fun. And I think there's going to be a lot of memories that come back for me and this weekend and a lot of mixed emotions because when I'm not pulling for the Texans, I am pulling for the Horned Frogs.
You that way you can wear the same shirt every day. It pays off that way. You told me earlier that you even had the mascot show up at a birthday party and it scared scared all your friends away, right?
Yeah, well, the Super Frog and what used to look like when it was Addie the Frog. I've heard people that went to TCU, including my mom. They said it was nightmare fuel sometimes. And the kids at my birthday party, Addie the Frog showed up, and I was really excited. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. The other kids were running the other way, buddy. So it was a bit of an experience, but I think they made some changes to that frog, and I think it's much more fan-friendly as much as we love the old one.
All right, give us some sense about Todd Witten's team. Obviously, it's his third stint at Tarleton. Has done an amazing job there over the years down in Stephenville. Give me some sense this year with this group. It's an experienced group. Not a lot of high school players signed last year. He went out and he played the portal game a little bit as well. What have you seen so far out of him with one game under their belt?
Well, we like what we saw. The biggest story I think that we had in the offseason, we had turnover at quarterback. There's only one quarterback that was here in the spring that's here in the fall. That's Marco Siderman. And we brought in a big recruit in Bo Allen out of Kentucky. He had a great game, 23 of 39, 294 yards and 3 touchdowns. We're really excited what he brings. He was a 4-star recruit going into Kentucky. He played a couple of games behind the quarterback there at Kentucky. Was it Will Lutz? I think they're a guy that's probably going to be a high draft pick.
Yeah.
So we feel like he's got some talent, and he's going to do some special things. As far as the team goes, like you said, we're in the middle of the reclassification period, and COVID has had different effects on everybody. We had a really good recruiting class the first year that we started making the reclassification to D1. And so you mentioned we didn't have a lot of guys coming from high school this past year. Felt like we had 2 really good years with that freshman class, and there wasn't a lot of holes to be filled that we could fill that way. We wanted to fill them through the portal. So we made a couple of moves through the portal, added 6 or 7 bodies, really good players like Jaden Smith and Mookie Douglas on the offensive side. Then on the defensive side, you get guys like Blaine Hoover, big 6'6" defensive end that can get his paws up and get pressure on the quarterback. Just filling in spots, and, just feels like this team is in a position to play really well throughout the rest of the year and be one of the more talented teams we've ever had here at Tarleton.
One of the things that Coach Dykes talked about was the frontline players at Tarleton will look the part. They'll be the part. Depth is always a concern when you play these games from your perspective. I think you only played, 42 guys or so against Mississippi Valley State. Will that be a concern heading into this game Saturday night?
Yeah, I think that's, you could tell you've done this before, Brian. It is going to be a concern. And that's the big difference when I've talked to Coach Witten over the last couple of days. He feels like some of the starting guys that he has can compete. But you're right. In that third and fourth quarter, when everybody's tired, TCU is going to be able to funnel a bunch of different guys in. And we, with we're a FCS team right now at 63 scholarships. Obviously, TCU's got the full amount. You can't bring as many guys in. So, yeah, that's definitely a concern. Having said that, we feel really good, especially on that front line, offensively and defensively, about what we put out in the trenches. I think you saw last week how well they played against Mississippi Valley State, who's got a number of guys that have been at that university, Jerry Rice, Deacon Jones, NFL Hall of Famers. But, I think we feel really good about it. But, yeah, I think we know this. That's the big difference in these two teams. Can you hang it around at first and make it close in the first quarter and the first half? And then in the second half, do you have the stamina to keep going and maybe make a difference in the game?
Well, we're looking forward to having you guys in Amon Carter Stadium on Saturday night. I think this is a game, Byron, that the Frogs want to continue to play on down the line. I think it's great that these two schools so close together, getting an opportunity to play on the field this year at Amon Carter Stadium. I appreciate you carving out some time for us, and we'll see you on Saturday night in Fort Worth, my man.
Man, I cannot tell you. I have earmarked this day since it was scheduled about 2 years ago, and I cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. Excited for it. We will see y'all on Saturday night. You know what? I'm gonna say it. Go Texans.
There you go. I do it. You can do it on the show, man. We
All right.
appreciate it. That's right. At least go purple, right? Byron Anderson joining us from down in Stephenville here today. All right. As we talked about the fact that this Frog game kicks off at 7 o'clock on Saturday night, a lot goes into this. Really, it's been all week long. As a matter of fact, today it was field day for the Horned Frogs. And we're not talking about sack races and three-legged races. No, we're talking about getting Amon Carter Stadium's turf ready for this matchup on Saturday night. Here's a look at it right now.
So on a normal game week, what we'll do is we'll come out. Tuesday we start laying our logos, giant stencils, lots of dots. Think of connect the dots when you're a kid. So if you can pass kindergarten, you can do it. So we measure everything out off of our lines and off of our edges, dot those out. And we came in yesterday. We did a mow after the kickers got done with their routine. And then we set up the whole team area, all the media lines, measure off the sidelines and the out of bounds areas there. Then we get in today and we start painting all of our white. We measure our cross lines. We roll each of those 2 times with our paint rollers. We'll start filling in the logos. And then once we're done with our cross lines, we'll paint our red goal lines that we're pretty famous for now. And from there, we'll start moving into numbers and then hashes and get all the little stuff done. So all in all, on a day like a Thursday, will probably take us about 4.5 to 5 hours to get everything done. After this game, we don't play again until October 1st. So we'll be able to come in, we'll verticut, we'll tear out a lot of the older dead material, the brown stuff that you'll kind of see, blow it, mow it once the teams are off the field, and then we'll start throwing our fertilizer out. We'll come in on Monday, we'll do a light top dressing with about 25, 27 tons of sand, work that in, we'll aerate it, get it nice and breathable for the next one since we have a few weeks till the next game. Football is a game of inches. We've had a couple of times where people have second-guessed what we've done. We've had people come out and try to measure with their feet and instead of actually using a tape measure, and at that point in time you just kind of giggle and say, okay, we know where it's supposed to be.
Sasan Saba, the entire grounds crew at TCU, everyone behind, really what is an army that gets that stadium ready for games on Saturday. Big thank you to them for letting us follow them around today as they get Amon G. Carter, Moncrief Field at Amon G. Carter ready for Saturday night. All right, coming up next, it's our roundtable of experts. We'll get the predictions on the Frogs and the Texans when we continue after this.
Texas-based Happy Water offers the best-tasting, sugar-free kids drink ever made. Happy Water comes in 4 delicious flavors that you can find at local retailers and on Amazon. Each pouch contains 0 grams of sugar, 0 calories, and 0% juice. Head to happydrinks.com for more information and to purchase Happy Water. That's HAPI Live happy, be happy, drink happy.
The Flying T Club provides the everyday TCU fan and alum the ability to specifically support TCU student athletes. Flying T Club offers 3 levels of memberships. The Flying T Club is a nonprofit organization supporting the brand development of TCU student athletes through a series of unique event-based networking opportunities, which are exclusive to our members. These events provide a great social engagement tool for our members and student athletes alike. Follow them on Instagram at Flying T Club or online at flyingtclub.com.
Dave's Hot Chicken is a cult favorite and now has 2 locations in Fort Worth, Bryant Irvin Road on I-20 and Berry Street at TCU. Both owned and operated by Horned Frogs. Order the number 4 or number 5 for the tastiest lunch special under $10, or order online at daveshotchicken.com.
Frogs Today continues here from the Flying T Club studios with our roundtable of experts. It's got an S on the end of it. We really have just one. Her name is Melissa. She joins us right now. Melissa, how are you? Good to see you. Yes,
bringing some credence to the football talk.
That's right. That's right. She was in Colorado for that ball game. Obviously, we got Jamie Plunkett, we got David Bowden, we got Jeff Wilson as well. All right, let's dive into this one. First off, Colorado reaction. Melissa, let's start with you. Your takeaway from that game and the win for the Horned Frogs.
I love seeing the offense be aggressive on 4th down, going front from midfield. I know there's still TCU fans that are reeling from that decision to not go for it from midfield against Oklahoma last year. So that was really good to see. Love the adjustments coming out of the break too. After a really slow start, which had some people concerned, it was good to see the offense look really tightened up, really aggressive in the second half. And the defense was just absolutely locked down, as they should have been against a really young Colorado offense. So I think overall, first game, get the jitters out of the way, tough crowd, tough environment to come out with that kind of win and that kind of second half has got to have Frog fans feeling pretty good right now.
All right, great stuff to follow up on there. David Bowden, I'm going to start with you because you brought up something you've been talking a lot about, and that's the analytics of this team and this coaching staff. They live by the numbers. That's why you see the aggressiveness on fourth down, right?
For sure, yeah. Melissa's, was spot on when she talked about showing aggression, and that's what the analytics are there for. They look at it, they kind of equate it to a cheat sheet in blackjack, right? You're not always going to be right. If you've got what cards to split and when to double down. But you play the odds, and in the end, when it comes out in the wash, you're going to be ahead. So, absolutely, it gives them some confidence to be aggressive in those situations.
Yeah, those adjustments at halftime that you mentioned, Jeff Wilson. You saw A.J. Ricker, the offensive line coach, do a couple of things up front. They got some, as they refer to, favorable boxes from Colorado that they were able to take advantage of. And you could tell, as much as we talk about the air raid and Sonny's offense and Garrett's offense, this is a team that's going to run the football first.
All football teams are better when they run the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. And it opened up the rest of the field. You could see the tight ends were able to get into the action there in the second half because they came out and just had that big play with Miller and then, of course, DeMarcado on the long touchdown. But it was just a different second half. It was like they got back to kind of got back to basics and did what they do. And that's kind of been a theme all this week is, what they can control, and they could control the run game there.
And the story that you have been following from day one, the quarterback issue became an issue again. You lose Chandler Morris halfway through that game, essentially. Max comes in, runs the football first, talked about that was important to him. Came in, I thought he did okay. Sam Jackson as well.
It's unfortunate that Chandler's going to be out, but with a guy like Max Duggan who has the experience and the resume that he has, he understands how to move the ball down the field and manage an offense. TCU couldn't be in better hands for having a backup quarterback out there like Max.
Does the offense change at all?
No, I don't think so. I think a few exceptions. I think now when you get, if it's not Max, if it's Jackson, you do a few other things. He's just so dynamic on the edge. But for the most part, Garrett Riley really prides himself in just like Sonny Dykes in just being who they are.
Yeah, you talked about this all week long, and I know you're working on a piece on Max Duggan. The professionalism with which he has handled this was a great teammate. When he was the backup for the half, and then when he becomes a starter, comes in and gets the job done.
Yeah, it's something that not everybody has, especially at this level. You see it more when you get into professional sports and the veterans. I mean, he's like the veteran. For me, he's the Michael Young, the Rangers. He's here with TCU. He knows the right things to say, doesn't trash anybody, gives credit to everybody else, just a selfless kind of guy, but he's always ready. And whether it would be coming off the bench like he did, he knew exactly what he had to do, how to manage the offense, how to kind of circle the wagons, if you will, with the change at quarterback, and didn't miss a beat, but the coaches talk about how important it is for a guy with his pedigree, a guy who's been a starter basically for 3 years, that if he can do that, if he can accept a backup role but still be ready and still be helping guys out, that there's nobody on the team that shouldn't be able to do that. And
here's the good news as it relates to Chandler Morris, Melissa, and that is the fact that you've got Tarleton this week, then you have an open date before SMU, which is kind of I know he's targeted that. They may be a little bit further down the road when you talk to the medical staff, but you got a little bit of time for Chandler to recover from this knee sprain as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's a positive, but at the same time, too, you're going to throw him into much higher level competition when he comes back. And there's still some question marks based on what we saw Friday night out of his performance as well. And so if you're Max Duggan, you don't want to talk about the Wally Pipp situation here, but if Max comes out and performs at a really high level against Tarleton and looks the part in the next couple of weeks of practice, I think it's going to be tough for Chandler to earn that job back just because of his poise, his experience. By the same token, Chandler Morris won the job out of fall camp for a reason. And so he's the guy that Sonny believes in. So it's going to be interesting to see how they manage it. Do you throw a guy coming off an injury earlier than anticipated against SMU, which is going to be such a heated, emotional game? Or do you wait a week and then, Oklahoma is waiting for you on the other side with a new aggressive defense too. So I think it's going to put Sonny Dykes and Garrett Riley and that staff in a difficult situation of, do you play the guy that won the job or do you play the guy that's been playing if Max performs well?
I got to believe just being around Sonny, though, that he says, bring that on. Make it hard on me. Play well. we'll take that over anything else, right? Yeah.
Wanted to see them running the offense. And so really, and Dykes talked about this near the end of fall camp too, about the old adage of if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any. Well, we have three. I don't know what that means quite yet. But realistically, they don't need the quarterback to go out and be an elite level, Heisman level kind of guy. They have enough talent at the skill positions. They have what we think is a talented defense. They just need a guy who's going to go out, help put points on the board, and not turn the ball over.
Going to shift gears real quick to this defense. Talk to me about Joe Gillespie's group, what you saw, what you liked, maybe what they got to get better at.
Yeah, what I was really impressed with was the front three. I mean, it was, obviously there's an area where they struggled a little bit last year, but that defensive line did a great job keeping the linebackers fairly clean throughout the night. And I also liked how fast they were playing as a complete defense. But really, when you look at linebacker, they were just able to trigger when they saw their keys, right? So, D. Winters talked a little bit about, hey, if I had a down block, I knew I was going on that 4th and 1, and he got it, and it looked like, for all intents and purposes, it looked like it was a called blitz. He went so fast. But really, it was just him able to read. And these defensive players have talked all camp long on how easy this defense has been to pick up, which then obviously allows them to play a lot faster. And it showed up on Friday night for sure.
And then in special teams, Darius Davis, I'm not sure there's a better returner in the country, Jeff. I mean, you've seen him now for a couple of years. Give me some perspective here.
Well, you got to be fearless. That's a job that you just have to embrace and know that occasionally you're going to get the snot knocked out of you. Yeah. But you can scout punt teams too, and they recognized what Colorado was trying to do to him, and it just worked out perfectly. But he had the speed. He traversed a lot of that field to get to where he needed to be to get to the end zone. And what a weapon! I mean, if you can score on that in that phase of the game, it's just something else that makes you harder to beat.
You also had a couple of guys who backed up, could have gotten blocks in the back, held their arms up, kind of screened guys off. Spivey was one of those that did that. I mean, that was big too. That was huge on their part. Good coaching. All right, so it is time now for our picks for the week. Tarleton's coming in. We didn't talk a lot about the Texans. We did earlier, obviously, with Byron Anderson and with Landry Burdine. Who, by the way, we picked last week. Who won? I haven't even.
Well,
I did.
I was closest on the point spread. I had the closest point spread.
You were the closest point spread.
Right. But so he was the closest to the winner, I guess. But
yeah.
So I want to make sure I let you know that I won.
Okay.
And so
you didn't win anything.
What's that?
You didn't win anything.
Zero things.
So you're claiming you won, and you're claiming you won.
Neither of them won. I won.
I'm the only one that called the special teams touchdown. So I don't know.
So maybe it was Melissa.
We have side bets now.
Exactly. Exactly. All right.
Props.
So by the way, you can go to frogstoday.com and Play Action Pools is on there. Click on the banner ad there, and you can play against us. All right. So let me get your predictions for this week. TCU, Tarleton, Wilson. We'll start with you.
I don't think Tarleton's doesn't have the depth. They're going to run into trouble. TCU is going to be faster, stronger. So I'm going to go with TCU 51-13.
51-13, Jeff. All right. What do you think, Coach?
I was going for TCU anywhere from between 52 and 58. I'll also go to the lower side at 52 points. I think Tarleton scores some late. I just think they have the capability, the big play capability with those tall, they've got some length outside at receiver. So we'll go 52-17.
52-17. All right. What do you think, James?
I think that Tarleton gets maybe one garbage time touchdown late.
All right. Good deal. All right, Melissa, your turn.
I'm going to go 48-13. I agree with Coach. I think they can put some points on the board late. There'll be at least one garbage time touchdown, maybe a couple field goals. But we wanted 40 last week. We didn't get it. This is the week that Sonny takes the foot off the brake a little bit and lets these guys fly. They won't start with 7 points in the first half this week. I can promise you that.
Okay. All right. I'm going. How about this? You ready for this? Because I think they were offended that they gave up the late touchdown. I know Joe Gillespie was. I also don't think Sonny Dykes will score 100 on Tarleton. No. I think he respects Todd Whitten too much. He won't do that. I'm going to go 56-0. I think it's a shutout for the Horned Frogs. Really bold.
Okay.
Even though I like Tarleton's quarterback Bo Allen, but I'm going 56-0. I think his defense was kind of hacked off over that late score. So we'll see what comes of it. All right. Great show here today. Thanks to our roundtable of experts who made this possible, including Melissa, who carved out time there in the Redwood Forest to join us here again this week on Frogs Today. Don't forget, we got some special shows tomorrow. Tomorrow night, we're going to be live from Lot 12, part of the men's basketball reunion. All right, so Frogs Today will come to you live tomorrow night at 7 here. And that'll originate from Lot 12 at the Hyatt Place in Fort Worth. We're going to get some great guys coming back that we'll get a chance to visit with. And then Saturday, we got a pregame show before the game. Jamie, Coach Bowden, Marshall Newhouse will be there as our analyst. Jeff might even pop by. You never know. He's real busy. You know. That'll happen starting at 5:30 before the 7 o'clock kickoff. And then post-game afterwards, Coach Bowden and Marshall Newhouse will be there for you to give you some reaction. So a lot going on. Stay by the channel, Frogs Today, and always frogstoday.com. For all these guys, thanks for joining us. Until tomorrow, have a good night.
Frogs Today is brought to you by the Flying Tea Club, supporting TCU student athletes, and by Richard's Rainwater. Say hello to the water of tomorrow. Frogs Today is a production of Roxo Media House.
Roxo Media House.